Akademska četvrt.
Dobrodošli u Akademsku četvrt. Lijepi pozdrav slušateljima UNIDU radija i gledateljima UNIDU televizije. S vama su danas tonski realizator Alen Roki, snimateljica je Rea Sarić, a ja sam Mislav Ćimić. Danas ova lijepa prigoda, imamo čak dvoje uvaženih gostiju. To su Becker, poznati američki pravni stručnjak za pitanja, uloge, analize DNK u pravnom sustavu SAD-a, a osim njega s nama je i Ola Laurell iz Vijeća Europe, točnije ispričavam se iz Europske komisije, točnije iz stručne skupine koja se bavi ljudskim krijumčarenjem. Zanimljive teme koje otvaraju jedan širok prostor za mogućnosti o kojima možemo razgovarati, ali nama u središtu danas bit će jedna konferencija koja se redovito održava na Interuniverzitetskom centru u Dubrovniku i o tome ćemo govoriti s našim gostima, kao i natjecanju za studente prava koji se održava u Dubrovniku već nekoliko godina. Moram pozdraviti goste, razgovor će biti na engleskom jeziku, ali i to ste, dragi slušatelji i gledatelji koji nas redovito pratite, već naučili. So, good day to you guys and welcome. Thank you for coming here today.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
I told our listeners and our viewers that you're participating on the course Crime Prevention Through Criminal Law and Security Studies, hosted by the Faculty of Law from Zagreb. And also a big subject is the Adriatic Moot Court Competition. So to begin, you're taking part in the course. What was your role in it? Is this your first time here?
For myself, this is my fifth time to Dubrovnik. I'm very happy to be back again, and so we're preparing this moot court for the students at the course because traditionally students in this area of the world don't have this kind of experience in the court, and so it's to enable them to speak publicly and to learn how to answer questions during their argument, which is usually not done in the normal course of cases in Croatia.
Yeah, and I'm here for the first time in Dubrovnik, and it's a lovely city and a lovely country, and I think it's so nice. I will be back soon.
That's good to hear. That's good to hear.
And I'm a prosecutor since 35 years with a lot of experience in court. So I hope I could assist in the moot court with my experience.
We talked earlier how you're from different parts, opposite parts, but you're getting along very well.
Yes, of course.
You mentioned, and I also did, the moot court competition. For some of our listeners and viewers who may not know what is a moot court competition?
A moot court competition is where we provide a problem for the students, a theoretical problem. This year I've actually placed it in Croatia. So we have a sexual assault occurring in the Pula amphitheater and a murder that takes place in the Plitvica National Parks, where a body comes over the waterfall. And so we've tried to set something up in a real life perspective for the students. And what we do is we get teams of students and they argue various positions in front of a panel of judges. And I provide them with a scenario, and then they look at the facts and the law. They try to analyze then the legal issues that are present in the problem and present argument. And then we will judge, for example, their knowledge of the law and the facts, how they put everything together, their presentation skills and their timing. And this gives them a good idea in the real world of how this might work, because there are a number of students here at Dubrovnik who are actually engaged in moot court competitions, for example, in The Hague or other places throughout Europe. So this is a very good way for them to get some practical experience, to see what kind of questions they might be asked, and to be able to get their skills up to a level that they could compete in these other competitions.
What's your perspective on this? What is the main aim for the students to learn and get out of this experience?
But it is how to argue in front of a court, how to analyze the legal problems that occur, and it will be very different. And they will learn how to deal with real things before it happens when they are ready with the studies.
Usually it's argued in public that studies are not enough if you don't get real life experience. Is this a kind of way to get, for the students to get experience without actually doing real cases and solving them?
Yes, it is. This is a great opportunity, kind of a clinical exercise for them. And I've actually based the problem upon issues that I have dealt with in my law practice. So I have changed some of the facts and some of the situation, but I've given each side, a chance to argue their position. So each side could potentially win, depending on the outcome. But I think it's a very good way. I even know in my law school back in Chicago that there were very few clinical programs when I was going to school. And so I was actually a moot court teacher at the law school, and I've now tried to bring that here to Dubrovnik to give the students that same kind of experience. I've been doing this for many years, and I've never had a student who has not had a positive experience. Not that they may have been very nervous and scared, but afterwards they were able to use it in their own life or in their own practice for nothing else but the experience and maybe the confidence to be able to present in front of people.
From a judging perspective, how do you connect this experience when you're judging students and helping them learn with the work you're doing with the European Union?
I work for the Council of Europe. But it doesn't have much to do with that. This has more to do with my previous experience as prosecutor and doing court cases. My experience from the Council of Europe is something else. It has to do with the fight of trafficking of human beings.
But these kinds of projects and students being involved, I hope can prevent from you having more work at the council and with human trafficking.
Hopefully, yes. But I think the most important thing with this fake trial is that the students get to know how to act in the real situation. I think it's not enough. There is a need to make study visits in courtrooms as well to see the real thing, not only what they are doing here.
So there's quite a lot of room for students to learn, and I hope more opportunities will even come when the future approaches us. You are, as I mentioned, a part of the course Crime Prevention through Criminal Law and Security Studies. You both had some lectures. What did you talk about?
On my lecture, I spoke about a couple cases because this is a course this year on DNA and innocence projects. And we have tried to launch the Croatian Innocent Project, in conjunction with this particular course. And that was just done yesterday in the media in Croatia. And so I spoke about two cases that I have litigated. In the United States, over 350 people have been exonerated based upon DNA evidence. And so I was involved in
That's a lot.
It's a lot. And I was involved in two of those cases personally. One was a rape case and one was a murder case. And they both dealt with eyewitness identification, which is something which is not very reliable, as we have learned through the years in the courts. And so I tried to provide that to the students to let them know what I was able to do to try to track down the evidence in order to test the DNA. And so my one client was in for 8 years, my other was in for 14 years before they were released. And then the third case I talked about was one of the most prolific serial murder cases in United States history, the John Wayne Gacy case. And he had killed at least 33 young teenage boys and buried them in his cellar. And so I have been representing the mother of one of the victims. And so I ended up exhuming some bodies in the case in order to find out whether they had properly identified her son as being one of the victims. And after 40 years, I learned that the authorities actually did misidentify her son. So we're now trying to track down her son, but it's something that we never could have done at the time because identifications were based upon the dental records. and now we have DNA, so that would supersede an identification based on the dental record. So that was the substance of my presentation.
Some pretty serious subjects.
Yes.
What did you talk about?
Yeah, my presentation concerned retrial after final force of judgment in Swedish criminal justice. Final force is normally the end of the court trials, and it's not possible to have a new trial after that. But when there are special circumstances, it is sometimes possible to have a retrial. And I described the system, and then I had 3 case examples. The first case example was the murder of our previous Prime Minister, Olof Palme, and the attempt of a retrial that the Prosecutor General had. I had a serial killer in my presentation as well, and there was another case that concerned a guy who was sentenced for murder and who was acquitted after 13 years. So it's a little of the same thing, but from the perspective of the prosecutor.
What do you reckon about your experiences for the students? What can they take out, maybe implement in our Croatian society from the things you talked about, which are different, but also have some connections to the different kinds of things you spoke about?
So I think there's 2 things that I hope that they take away from the experience. The one is to be able to look at the overview of Innocence Project, see how it affects the criminal law system, and how they can hopefully implement that in a practical way here in Croatia. There is still the necessity of legislation to allow these kind of things, but there is actually a database here in Croatia, which most of the countries in the Balkans do not have. So that's a very good plus as to using an Innocence Project here in Croatia. The other thing I hope they take away most of all is the ability to think outside of the box, to look how to do something new, because of technology and forensic science, there is much that we still don't know and that we are learning and exploring. And sometimes in the law you may be left with a situation where the statute does not allow you, for example, to use a certain forensic test. And so we've tried to teach them how to think outside the box and to get around that legally, or to change the law so that in fact you can use this to promote justice, and especially if someone has been in jail unlawfully, because they are still then an innocent victim, just like the victim of the crime. And so we talk a lot about whether there should be finality, which we usually have in criminal cases, or justice. And there is a tension in the law between that. And so I've tried to argue to them that you really cannot have finality until you actually have justice.
What was your main goal for the students when it comes to your presentations?
I wanted to show them that there are different legal possibilities in different countries. There is something that is possible here, but in other legal systems there could be more possibilities. And I was not the only one who presented different legal possibilities on retrial. There were others, and maybe in the future some of the students will be involved in drafting new laws, and maybe they will remember some of the input they had during this conference.
I'm going to say thank you for all of your input to the conference and talking to the students, and also thank you for this short conversation. As we talked, so many questions rise up. We could go for so many more hours, but time's up. Thank you so much for this occasion.
Thank you for inviting us.
Thank you so much.
Eto, dragi gledatelji i dragi slušatelji, hvala i vama što ste pratili ovu današnju emisiju. Naši gosti bili su dvojica vodećih pravnih stručnjaka u svijetu, Becker i Ola Laurell. Nadam se da vam je bilo zanimljivo i da vam nije bilo teško pratiti akademsku četvrt na engleskom jeziku. S vama su danas bili tonski realizator Alen Roki, snimateljica je bila Rea Sarić, a ja sam Mislav Ćimić. Hvala vam i lijep pozdrav do idućeg susreta.